Beginning of the Ari. Alright. He says we have to remember all of the subjects that were discussed before about concerning Pesach, and also Binyan Sfirat HaOmer. And all the subjects concerning Sfirat HaOmer. And with this, we can now understand. Now he wants to kind of summarize everything. We learned before, he says we learned before, in the Omer particularly, that from Pesach until Shavuot is 7 weeks. 7 weeks. Now the old question again. I mean, why is there Shavuot at the end of 7 weeks? Because it says in the Torah, right? That's the biggest mistake Judaism made for 2,000 years. Why is Shavuot at the end of the 7 weeks? Because it says at the end of the 7 weeks, you should have Shavuot. And we know that's not true. Because no time can a physical fact or physical teaching, physical teaching meaning something that was written, explain away or give a reason. Or just like we said, that the Bet HaMikdash can't be a reason why Yerushalayim is Yid HaKodesh. It's the holy city. Can't be a reason. Anything can't be a reason. Guy hits you, slaps you in the face, steals from you, right? That can't be the cause. Can't be the cause. Can't be the cause. I trip over a rock, I'll get my stick and I'll beat the rock up. Right? It's the same way. But the same way. The same way. But because Judaism teaches, it looks like it teaches us that, that's why a Jew is always, he always has whom to blame. Why did the Holocaust come? You know who to blame? Guy in Germany. Right? You know who to blame? In Spain? Who do you blame? Spanish people.
The church.
What? The church. Sure, the church. Queen of Ferdinand and Queen.
Everyone but the
King Ferdinand. What?
Everyone but the Jews.
Everyone but themselves? No. Oh, we blame other Jews too. That's why we're pretty good at that too. That's not enough. We don't blame ourselves. Maybe that's the problem. In any event, so the Ari says, why is there Shavuot? At the end of the day, it has to be a cosmic reason. It has to be a reason that you can't put your finger on. It has to be a reason that's not physical. That's the only reason. But so where's the reason? It's upstairs. Nobody can see it. It's not written, because the minute it's written, says Rabbi Shimon, it's a fairy tale, right? You know what he says about the Torah? It has no meaning. Because that can't be the meaning. The physical reasoning, the physical words of the Torah. At its least, Rabbi Shimon wants to give a little kedusha to the Torah. So what does he say? It's sofim. It's all concealed. You mean it's so concealed? And if it's really concealed enough that I can't understand the word, then maybe it even could be a reason. Right? But it has to be completely softened. You know why Rabbi Shimon had to say that? The reason Rabbi Shimon had to say that the Torah, as it is written, is only for fools, because if I ask you, Chagai, why should I keep Shabbat? You'll answer me, written like that. That's right. If that's your answer, that's for a fool. That's for a fool. There has to be a reason that doesn't say. Then you ask the question, so why do you have to write the whole Torah to begin with? That's what we're going to learn now. But there has to be something, some physical thing that makes my connection to the real thing. Why did the souls have to come into a body? Because we need this physical world, the 1% of the physical world, because without the physical world, there could be no expression. In other words, the whole Zohar could have no meaning unless there was a Torah, unless there was a 1%. But to say the 1% is the whole thing, that's a mistake. So, the Ari right away tells us, why is Shavuot important? Because it took 7 weeks for the energy that was given to the Jews on Pesach to become manifested. It required time. Did it require time? It could happen in a second. But for it to have an effect for us, it requires the 1%. For my soul to express itself, it can't express itself. I mean, there are the Neshamot. We say the Neshamot come to us different times. They come on the Yom Hilula. The Neshamot come. How can the Neshamot come? Where's the body of them? It could come. But to really be felt by everybody, it has to have this physical body. It has to have a physical body. Therefore,
if it, to make it manifest, what was the physically going out of Egypt? And I mean, wasn't there that part of the manifestation? I mean, if there was the injection of light, so then the Jews left.
Right.
Isn't that the manifestation of the energy that was given?
Yeah, that's right. What do you want to say with that?
So then there's got to be something else, some other kind of energy or additional light or something.
But then it went away. But then it went away, right?
So this is to get it back.
Oh, it's got to come back again. It's got to come back that this physical body can touch it.
I'm asking why you didn't stay. Why
No.
disappear?
I was under the impression that the Rav was saying that it took those 7 weeks to then make manifest the energy that was in Pesach.
Yes,
In Pesach.
that's correct.
But the energy was already there and the Jews left. In other words, there was like a cause of the light. The Jew left with the
It was like the neshama after death.
I'm sorry?
A neshama of a person, he dies. Where's the soul? Goes back.
Right.
It's not here. But for those who are like Moshe, was there a difference between the 7 weeks and Pesach? No difference. I don't know. I don't know what you're driving at.
So in other words, the Jew then who left Egypt didn't maybe even really have the desire for the light. I mean,
he absolutely didn't. Not maybe. He said, "Give me the fish, Bella. What are we going out of here for? We must have been drugged."
So then even the 7 weeks of Shavuot.
And he wakes up the next day. The drug wore off. Now he wants to go back again.
So the 7 weeks.
He said so. Didn't he say he wanted to go back?
Right.
Why do you want to go back?
Well, why would he?
Because he never wanted to leave in the first place.
It's a process in the cosmos.
But the 7 weeks is the Memtet Sharituma. Each day relates to another level. Right?
A conceal, right? The concealment is the tumah. That's right.
Pesach itself was called Nest because the Jew made no action to make manifest.
He didn't make no action that can warrant that kind of light coming down. Right. Right.
So the 49 days correlate to each gate on each day.
Yes.
So when they make manifest, is that
those 49 days? Right. Then we ask the question, what did he make manifest? He was so holy, he counted the Sfirat Omer.
made manifest the technique by which we can reach light. Called the Torah.
Make techniques? What do you mean you make techniques? That's the big question.
Right.
So what if I make a technique? I'll get burnt out. What if I made a technique?
That's what he did.
That's true. I think that's there's something supposed to happen there. He wants to tell me if it happened. All right.
Why we get it?
No. Is that Lamata? Okay. In any event, no, what you're saying is right. But that should bring Bila Mavat Lanes. If that was the question we left with, you walked out. That was the question we left with. That should bring Bila Mavat Lanesach. That death already died, eternally. What did they do? Like, I forgot who told me. After they went out, what they say? No water. Let me go back. They don't even want it. Not only they didn't do anything, they didn't even want it. So how come they made it on Shavuot? And Bila Mavat Lanetzah. What? It's even better. That's right. That's right. Purim, by those Persian Jews, Kimu v'Kiblu. Doesn't say there was Matan Torah. They accepted the Torah. You know, that's what Rav Ashok says. We call it Matan Torah. The gift. The giving of the Torah. What about the taking of the Torah? Those people, they didn't take nothing. He was given, no takers. Then it says that Purim, they became the takers. They wanted it. That's why it happened.
So even the 7 weeks of Omer and Shavuot were more like forcing it on the
That's
Jews.
right. That's right. But at least, what is he saying? Meanwhile, I just want to, this is what he says. Not that we should even think that God decided there should be Shavuot after 7 weeks, right? That's why we keep Shavuot. No. Because it required that energy to become manifest, required an aspect of space and time. That's all. That's what the Ari says. Okay? Which we know is Chacham. Bina v'chesed gvura shebetar v'chesed v'achet v'agvura v'ateferet. V'gam malchut nichlelet im ha-teferet. And our world, even though the 7 weeks, again, has Chacham and Bina, which is 2, Dat has 2, Chesed and Gvura, which is 4, the Chesed v'hagvura v'ateferet is another, Chagat is another 3, you have your 7 weeks. That was the manifestation of the light. That's what was required. Those vessels called Sfirot became established. How did they become established? The Jew made it established by the Omer. He brought down the vessel. Like we do. When we say the Omer, bring down the vessel. What about Malchut? So the Ari wants to add, V'gama Malchut nichlelet ima teferet. And also Malchut is connected always, like the moon and the sun. Moon is connected with the sun. In other words, what do you mean connected? It's included in it. Because since the sun is going to shine on it, then it has its light. So it's like it encompasses. Nichlelet. Because it is subject to the moon, to the sun, it has no light of its own. So that's called Kalul. Like a student with a teacher. The teacher already encompasses the student. Includes him already. Because all that he'll have is what he gave him. Right? So it's not a new entity. It's all connected with the giver. This is, I think, the secret. Because Malchut and Teferet are connected back to back. It's an expression. What does back to back mean? What does back to back mean? The closest physical expression could be like Siamese twins. Or like we say about Adam Arishon, back to back, when they were born, where they were created, back to back. Well, what's back to back? Let's say I talk to you. You hear me, right? Now what happens if I should turn around like this and I should talk to you? You feel the same thing? No. Right? There's a diminishing. There's a lessening there. In other words, the intensity that's traveling between them is not as strong. And that's logic. That's logic. Okay? Achor ba'achor. V'ata b'chag HaShavuot. But now, in this day of Shavuot, nitmashtu gam b'nesach v'hod shabo. It went down further. Then Teferet. V'heim sod shtei luchot avanim. It went down into the realm of where Malchut has a connection, which is Nesach and Hod, which is that's why there were 2 luchot avanim. That's why there's 2 luchot. Meaning, the 2 luchot is the manifestation to indicate to us from a physical thing what's happening. Shenitnu biyom Shavuot, k'niska b'zohar. The trei luchin inu netzach v'hod. Came in שנשפשטו עד שם, אז מזדווג היסוד הזה רבין למלכות, בבחינת זיווג בגדלות גמור. What is he saying here? What does he want to tell us? We asked the question, on Pesach, along came Job, Iyov, gave Iyov. Why was it necessary to give Iyov? Because in every manifestation of light, there's always a problem. Always a problem. You know, it's like people who make money can't keep it. People are born healthy. Most people, we're told by the doctors, everyone has to get older and he has to get sick. That's the process. Is that the truth? Of course not. Of course not. Where's Boaz? Oh, he must be eating. When they took the Yemenite out of Taman, they brought him into Israel. Guy never knew what it meant, a heart attack. They lived until 120 years, literally. Brought him into Israel, now they die at 50, 45, heart attack, sick as a dog. They brought him from the land of nowhere into the Holy Land, right? Ruined him, finished him. Right? What they do with him?
He used to eat two times a day meat.
And he used to eat 2 times a day meat.
It's the most hot stuff that exists.
And, if you want to eat hot food, your doctor tells you eat hot food. You know what it means to eat hot food? You burn out your whole insides.
With oil and everything.
Right. When the Jews were in Egypt, the light wants there to be light. But we said, because of bread of shame, that's the rule. You got to do something. In order to be able to maintain it, you got to do something. And if it comes to Pesach where he needs such a surge of energy that the world never saw, but we have a description what kind of energy it was. An energy kills the firstborn of how selective it was. Firstborn of the Egyptians, not the Jews. Turns the water of the Egyptians, not the Jews. What kind of a selective energy it is? It means that no matter how polluted the water was, there was such an injection of light. There was a drop of light. The whole pollution of the water turned into what? Water. It was polluted. The water was polluted before it became polluted. He took Iyov, it says. Why did he take Iyov? And the Zohar says why he took Iyov. Because Iyov had it good all his life. Also it says, the Zohar says he didn't give the klippah. In other words, he had everything that a person in this world would want. Everything. He had everything. Why did he take him? Why did he take him? Because since he had everything, what did it mean that he had everything? That's what it said. He had everything. What does it mean he had everything? What? What? Who? He was what?
Yoetz.
Yes, he was a Yoetz. He was also an advisor of Pharaoh. Yeah, he was an advisor. But he had everything. Meaning, when do you have everything? Who has everything? Everybody want to be a billionaire. How many people in the world want to be? Everybody would like it. But to say everyone wants it, meaning it with all the problems around it, and everything, not everybody wants it. Someone wants to be a millionaire. Okay, billionaire. You have to have a tremendous desire to receive for that. Tremendous. Iyov had everything because he wanted everything. But, like the Zohar says, a little thing. What does the Zohar say? He never gave, in fact, he was so holy, he didn't want to give nothing to the Klippa. Nothing. He wanted it. Right? He didn't want to give nothing to him. You know, we cut off, we make the motzi, cut off, give him a little. Comes the Brit Milah, who gets the first portion? Satan. He gets the first portion. He was going to give him nothing. In other words, why didn't he want to give him nothing? Why didn't he want to give him nothing? Because he was such a tzaddik? No. Wanted it all for himself. Wanted it all for himself. When the Jews, and that was the same guy, the same person, the Jews went out, they had the vessel. But there had to be a burnout. Had to be a burnout. No Jew had the kind of ratzon lekabel, the desire to receive, like Iyov. No Jew had it. So why did he take him? Because he could draw down that intensity. And so it's like he's drawing it down, like he's bringing it, and he's going to get the burning out, because the others weren't even bringing it. They didn't even want it. The other Jews didn't want it. But you know what? Listen, if it's there already, why not take it? If it's there already, why not take it? So they took it. Insofar as they were concerned, it was still for nothing. But we asked about the burning out. The reason they didn't get burned out, because they really didn't even want it. They didn't want to go out of Egypt. The Torah tells us that they said, let's go back. That means they never wanted to leave. So how could you bring down this kind of light to someone who wanted it? They said, look, keep the light, just give me my fish. That's all they wanted. Give me a little fish. Fish in Egypt is good. We used to have a friend. She had a daughter and a son. She used to travel 4.5 miles up to the Boston coast to get the clams. They say that the clams there are the best. She used to travel 8 hours, get clams. I mean, for food, you go travel that far. I mean back. Yeah. That's what. Is that a big ratzon lekabel? She's willing to give up 9 hours of traveling twice a week. She didn't have a big desire to receive it.
But all of it for
Small one. What?
But the little she had was for oneself alone.
Yeah, but it was so. All the Jews had for themselves alone in Egypt. But you call that a desire to receive? See, if you want it all, that's a desire to receive. That's why we teach over here. Who wants to settle for less? Oh, give me this, give me that, give me that, give me all. Give me it all. So the Jew was not ready. Came Shavuot. He put him into the pit. You know why? Still didn't want it all. He didn't want it all. He did not want it all. Even then.
So maybe on Shavuot gave the ratzon lekabel.
That's all that happened. That's all that happened. That's what happened. Good or for bad. That the Jew, when it said Nasiv and Ishma, the way we give the lectures, right? There was a transformation of the Jew. It had to be that way. When he said, the way we give it in the lecture, when it says Nasiv and Ishma, don't ever believe that the Jew said, God, you want to give me the Torah? I don't even want to hear what it says, but you're telling me to take it. Does it happen? Is there a Jew like that today? Tell a Jew to do something and don't explain it to him. Even if you explain it to him, he may not do it. But without an explanation, he's so obedient, he listens, everything. It doesn't happen. So we say that's what happened on Mount Sinai. When he said Nasa B'Nishma, he became a whole different person. That he wants everything around. Now you're allowed to learn Kabbalah. Because there's going to be such a tremendous amount of light that's going to come in. Why is a tremendous amount of light coming in now? Is Zman Yemot HaMashiach in the time of, well, why now? Why not 500 years ago? Because we're coming to the end of the process. Okay. What do you mean coming to the end of the process? God is very impatient. What do you mean he's impatient? We say, where is God? Why he doesn't help us? God is so impatient that he wants to give us all the light that nothing can ever go wrong with us. God is more impatient to want to give the light than we want the light. But, when the Holocaust comes, where was God? Where was God? We told God, brother shame, don't come. When Avraham Azulai said that this day, from this day on, it meant Hutra HaGzeirah. What do you mean the Gzeirah? Not to learn Kabbalah, right? It was permitted now for everyone to learn. You know what the Gzeirah was? That I once explained it with Ligzor. Ligzor. Ligzor in Hebrew means to cut. That aspect, and that's what happened over here, that aspect that God has to restrict himself. Has to restrict himself. Bread of shame. No more. No more. He can now give what he wants to give. He wants to give all the light. But he'll burn us all out. He'll burn us all out. That's why Avraham Azalai said, you better go sell this in the marketplace. He means he was a religious person. He wanted everyone to learn Kabbalah. He knew that if you don't bring it down to everybody, you get burnt out. No water to drink, no nothing. You're not ready? Nothing. Nothing. And when the Torah says that parents will eat the flesh of their children, oh, what a terrible thing. It'll be so bad. It'll be so bad. It's not fair. It's not fair. Now we could say, really, is it not fair? But what do you mean, what not fair? God wants to give his light. God don't give you light. So what'll happen? So we do the slow death process, Chase us out, the Jew out from one country, they burn a couple of million, right? Or they shove him out of Spain, or they shove him out of Israel, or they make an intifada. You see, these are all little wars. You see, that's not so bad. The Jew is used to that. Getting hit over the head, but give him a few years at least that he can breathe. That's it. Doesn't want it all. Doesn't want it all. He's the same Jew. He didn't want it all then, doesn't want it all then. Jews, stupid. Every time, in Israel, what are they doing meanwhile? Well, they're throwing rocks. First of all, it's not really next to them. They make all their combinations of why it's good, Tov. That's where it comes from. Because a lot of Jews are satisfied. Okay. As long as he doesn't mean me. Same thing. People went back in 1939 to Germany. You go back in 1939 to Germany. Jew. What are you talking about? How stupid do you get? Oh, we're the smartest people in the world. How do you go back to Germany in 1939? You don't see the handwriting on the wall. No, you didn't see that. He figured it out. Very smart. He figured it out. The way they figure out in Israel today. See how good they figured it out. Some nations it takes 200, 300, 500 years to disappear. This country knows how to do it real quick. Right? In 40 years they can disappear the way they're going. Now is like what happened in Egypt. Except in Egypt, he also had to do something. So he gave him Iyov. Now Avram Azulai said, there'll be the Zohar. Go down and tell people who can't read, scan the Zohar. Because it wouldn't be fair. If Hashem now is going to bring in such an amount of light that you can't drink, so how am I going to drink the water? Scan the Zohar. Scan the Zohar. You'll have that instrument that's not going to burn out what you're holding on to. The Ari tells us here, it was Achor Ba'achor, and he tells us what happened. Why is he telling us these things? Because when the Jews were on Mount Sinai, he was going to give them all that light, but they weren't ready. They weren't ready. He gave them a little information. First of all, he changed them. He said that you should want everything. But he gave them this information. The light has become manifest. What were they doing? They were counting the Omer. What do? We count the Omer. More than that, we don't do. That's all that's necessary. That's all that's necessary. Said, like a person, some people are blessed, some people are not blessed. Doesn't Hashem want to bless everybody? The answer is there are a lot of people that should be blessed, but they don't know how to bring down the bracha. They don't know how to bring it down. A little thing. They don't bring it down. He doesn't get a bracha. God wants to give a bracha to everybody, but you also know there's a time when the bracha can come down. When the Ari says it took 7 weeks, and that day, that's the day the bracha came down. The day that when Hashem was going to change them into having a vessel, it had to coincide with what? When the light comes in. But if he made them to have a desire to receive a day later, or a day before, timing. Everything has to be timing. Timing. What happened on Shavuot was the timing. Nothing more. They were there at the right time with the right information. Nothing more. What did they know? They know what the Ari just told us over here. What they know? Scan the Zohar. But we said, what about burning out? Because on Shavuot, it was Achor Ba'achor. You know what that means? Back to back. In other words, if I talk to you and I look in your eyes, what you just did, you got to lower it. Two people can't look at each other and keep talking. One has to lower his eyes. He created a condition of Achor Ba'achor, diffusing it for them, diffusing it that they can handle what they got, which was sufficient enough for Bila Hamavet Lanesach. They weren't great Jews. The timing. On Shavuot, why can we take? What are we going to do on Shavuot? Stay up all night. We're going to say a couple of psukim. We're going to read a couple of verses. You know what we get now, says the Zohar? What do we get now? Life insurance. Now we're guaranteed we're going to live either till Rosh Hashanah or next Shavuot. For what? Because we read a few psukim. Now we're smart. Avraham Azulai said, bring that into the stupid guy and tell him if he has a zachut and there's no negativity around him, tell him, scan. Look at the verse. Say the verse. Say the verse so you're going to get life insurance just by reading a verse? Because that's all that's necessary. At that moment, that's all that's necessary. That's what the whole business of why we want to sell Zohars to every person in the world. Every person in the world. I just go through my mind. What about the Goyim?
Iyov was a Goy.
Who?
Iyov was a Jew.
Not sure, but I have to make that decision by tomorrow morning.
Yeah,
What? What?
The biggest desire to receive.
Who? Yes.
To be a Jew.
What?
He was the one who was
But he was a Yoetz of Paro. At that time, he wasn't Jewish.
But the soul was from the kind of the big desire.
The big desire to receive, yes. But what the halacha is not a Jew. Right? We know the people who want to convert are those people. We're talking about true converts. The one who feels they can't live without the proper body, so he goes through a conversion. What? Yeah. Even that's nice. it's a question whether, because according to the Torah, Iyov lived 1,000 years, 5,000, who knows? So some want to say he really never lived. And the answer is, not important. That's not what we want to get out from Iyov, that he was there. The concept is what we want. For me, what's the difference? Did he live 100 years or live 5,000 years? What difference does it make to me now? No, the concept. When he says achor ba'achor, and he tells us the whole process, then he says achor ba'achor. It wasn't direct. That means, with a few verses, the amount of light that's necessary. If it would be a total intensity, we couldn't handle it. Can't handle it. It's only Gemara Tikkun, like the Zohar says. But that was not what had to bring Bila Hamavet Lanetzah. The death no more would be. What they did, they read the few verses like the Ari tells us to do. On Har Sinai, of course, it was a little different. It was not only life insurance for a year, it was life insurance forever. There would never again be death. It still was a different intensity. Today, we don't have that condition. Today, it's even more clouded. But we get something. How do we get it? Because we look at the Ari, and everyone should scan what there is on Shavuot. Scan the page. You know it, you don't know it. Scan the page. It tells us what to do and everything. A few pages. And we'll get it. The truth of the matter is, why will we get it? Why don't we get burnt out? That was the big question. So what if there was Iyov? Why didn't the Jews get burnt out? The timing was right, because when he says there was an Iyov, the burning out process was Iyov. He handled it. What about the rest of the Jews? They were just happened to be there at the right place at the right time. When the light was coming in, for them, because they had a smaller desire to receive, they were the recipients of the light. The one who brought, but in order to have Bila Mavet Lanetzach, in order to go out of Mitzrayim, it had to be all the light. Who brought all the light? Iyov brought all the light.
And he wasn't
even Jewish.
Where's all the big
Maybe that's the answer. I have to make a decision from now.
What do you mean they happened to be there at the right time? There's nothing, you said there's nothing by accident. But now you say they happened to be there at the right time.
They were there at the right time.
But there's chance. That's not...
No, because of that was already, it says, not they're doing Zchut Avot. Why do we need... Another thing, remember? Because God promised Abraham, Yisrael, Yaakov, they're going to go out. No, Jim is asking a good question. Is it by accident they were there? People are there at the right time. Yeah. Well, you don't know some people can be in the wrong place at the right time? Are there some people who are in the wrong place at the right time? That guy who was traveling Tuesday under the highway, and a big chunk of the highway fell down and killed him. It was a Jewish dentist, right? If he was there 1 minute before, what 1 minute? If he was there 5 seconds before, right? He would have been on this side and the chunk would fall down. And if it was 5 seconds later, 5 seconds, the whole thing came down in 5 seconds.
But then you're living it up to luck. You say it's like your own.
Oh, so the answer is no. No. Had he said the Ana B'Kol that day, as an example, when the Jews put a little sprinkling on the doorpost, oh, that brought light. That was our big question. You remember? What was the big question? What did Jews do? Not only that, they wanted to stay there. What did they do? They made the right connection at the right time. Iyov was drawing down all the light that day, right? And the timing, it was the 15th day of the month, which is other aspects of Pesach, why it was the proper timing. And at the proper timing, they did the right thing. I'm trying to bring out the point that when you read the Zohar, what are you talking about? We're selling Zohars to people. Telling them, read the Zohar. Scan the Zohar. Bracha. What about bread of shame? What about bread of shame? Not bread of shame. The answer is whenever that light comes. If he is there and he's reading Zohar at that time, while the light is coming down and is going to a tzaddik that day, right? But he happens to be reading the Zohar so he can participate in that process by his little thing. He's not drawing down all the light. He can't draw down all the light. He doesn't want all the light. But he's there in that process. He gets a little. That little is enough to get him out. That little was enough on Har Sinai. That little was enough. Well, more than enough, because he still had to be Nasiv and Ishma. He was made into another Jew. He was made into another Jew. But he wasn't there. No. What did he do on Shavuot? He must, the same thing that the Ari, why did the Ari tell us to read these psukim? Right? Why did he tell it to us? We're going to do something. Thursday night, we're going to read the psukim, right? And the Ari gives us the combination. Anybody can do that. Even if you don't know how to read, you can do it because you can scan it. And you buy life insurance. Who? It also strengthens. You should scan actually the Megillat also. Makes it stronger. Yeah, we don't read it because we have no time. Yeah.
Why can't we do what they received on Shavuot? The Yesod, the Dignity, and finish it? Right? Two from Hashem and eight from Moshe.
We are doing that. How are we doing it? Like the Ari says, you read the first three psukim of one parasha, the second three, because actually we do not have what they had. Why was it going to be Bila Mavet Lanesach eternally? Death would eternally be buried because they had it. They were getting it directly. God gave it to them. We are not, the amount of light that came out on Har Sinai is not coming out. It's coming out if we make our proper connections, but it's still not the same. It's achor b'achor. We have that also. For us, it's more diffused than achor b'achor, back to back.
Is that why 70 days later they could make a golden calf?
Sure, because they had never changed. That's what I'm trying to say here. They didn't undergo a change. The only change they did was get a bigger desire to receive. But they didn't change as Jews. Where would they change? Where was the change? If they went out of Egypt, they complained. They wanted to go back. Complained all the way through. All the way through. They didn't change. But the timing was right. They were there in the right place, at the right time, doing the right thing. The fact that they didn't even want, but what we said did happen. We used the joke about why is there two luchot. The joke. Right? Why is there two? What? He went to give the Torah to everybody, right? What? That's right. He bought two for the price of one. That's the joke, right? That's the joke. Because he was going to get two double. Because if he does a little restriction, he'll get double. He went to the Arabs. He said, "Look, you want the Torah?" They said, "Oh, you like sex? You get all the pleasure out of sex." Yeah, more than you get now, double. He said, "So what do you want me to do?" "Oh, restrict sex." I gotta go through. You mean you want to give me double? If I restrict, too much for me. You know what? Let me have my one portion without restriction. Came to the Jew, he heard double.
Didn't think twice.
Didn't even want to think about it. They were there at the right time. There's no other. I'm not the only one who asks all these questions. But where's the answer?
Where's the bread of shame?
What? Sure.
Where's the bread of shame?
Oh.
Because that's all.
Bread of shame, you see,
life.
bread of shame burns you out. The problem with the question was bread of shame burns you out. It does, what? No, but it was Bila Mavet Lanetzach on that. Why weren't they burnt down? I'm talking about on Har Sinai, you're asking. On Har Sinai, why weren't they burnt out in Pesach? The answer is, the energy came down that to break the Egyptians. Why did they go out of Egypt? Why did they go out of Egypt? Because they were deserving? No. Because the middle key, potter was broken. So there was no more force to keep them there. That's why they didn't want to go out. They didn't want to go out. But there was nobody there to hold them anymore. Like this Paro controlled them. The force of all this light coming out, boom! But, bread of shame. Okay, they burn up there's a prison, right? And all the walls fall down. And there's no more gods. What are you going to ask, bread of shame? He said, I didn't ask to go out. Did I ask to go out? But there's no more prison walls. That's what happened. That's the Chidush.
That's Pesach and Shavuot.
Shavuot? It was Achor Ba'achor. It's for everybody, including us. Except there was more light, and they were doing the Omer. So you'll ask, why don't we have the same thing? Now, the answer is because it's not the same light for us now as it was for the Jew then. Then you're asked, why weren't they burnt out? That was the question. Same question. The answer is, he gave them to read. They did the Omer. All of these things. And there was a desire to receive for it. Why weren't they burnt out? Because it was Achor Ba'achor. That was enough to put the light in and not burn them out. Had it been directly, they would have burnt out. In fact, they said, after the first two Aseret HaDibrot, what did they say? Moshe? Enough. It was too much for them, by the way. It was too much. It was too much. They couldn't handle it. And so Moshe gave the next 8 commandments. Moshe gave the next 8 commandments. It was too much for them. Too much light. Were they really ready? And we're talking about Achor Ba'achor. It wasn't even that powerful. And it was too powerful for them. But it was enough. Whatever was coming down was enough. They read a little, the Psukim. They didn't do that on what we do. According to the Ari, they did also. Was the Ari making something new? No, that's what they did then. That's what we do now. It even helps us. What about bread of shame? Because Achor Ba'achor means it doesn't burn out. When it's Achor Ba'achor, this way I can talk to somebody and you don't have to lower your eyes. That was the Zachut, that it was Achor Ba'achor, but enough to do what? The Satan. Who makes death? Who makes death? It was enough to knock the walls down. So when it says Bila Hamavet Lanetzach, not that the Jews were so powerful and they got all this light and therefore they were going to live forever. No. The light came down was enough to break the walls down. No more Paro, no more Satan. That's what happened. That's all. And in order for them not to get burnt out, it didn't pass. It didn't stop with them. In fact, the minute it started stopping with them, the light was too heavy. No, we can't handle it. Send down less. But that was enough. That light was enough for the Satan to die. Who brings death? Death is not we think it's a normal process. Everyone must die. No, everyone should live. But along comes the Satan and demands that the person's been terrible all his life. I demand that you take him away. If the Satan is not, what do we do on Rosh Hashanah? Why do we get another year to live? Because we deserve another year, or we're smart? What do we do on Rosh Hashanah? We knock the Satan out of the box. Isn't that the whole Chachma according to the Zohar? Are we deserving? I mean, I was bad last year. Comes Rosh Hashanah, I go to a Kabbalah class. They teach me. Make a trick. knock them out of the box. Bread of shame means when I want and I'm not deserving. Jew didn't want. They taught him a trick, how to kill the Satan. And what you're asking, but what about Shavuot, bread of shame? They didn't want it. Why does the Gemara have to tell us that he put him over here and said, you'll be buried over there? Did they want the Torah? They didn't want it. And because they didn't want it, they didn't get burnt out. When do you get burnt out? When you say, I want, and you don't do restriction.
That's why the process continues.
What?
That's why the process continues.
That's right.
What rule at that time? Now
That's right.
Every year we're having the same opportunity.
That's right. To do the same thing. That's right.
Can you say that the chevre egel was part of the concept of Bila Amaret Lanetzach? Because
What?
the only reason that it wasn't manifested, Bila Amaret Lanetzach, because of chevre egel. Then we can say maybe that the only condition that it will be manifest, Bila Amaret, and it's chevre egel, and it was part of the movie. And it will be able.
Even the chevre egel was not that they all had to die. You remember what it was? When the spies came back.
So you're saying that the Jews didn't want the Torah, therefore they didn't get burned up.
That's right.
So what about there's no coercion, spirituality? God coerced the Jews to take the Torah. If they didn't want it, they would be coerced.
But he made it achor ba'achor, which means back to back, enough to finish off the Satan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And enough that they didn't get burnt out. And it was a good timing at the right time.
So they didn't want the Torah.
And they did what the Ari says to do, so they don't get burnt out. Because what do we do with the Ari? We're building up an insulation to handle it. Nothing more.
They wanted the Torah or they didn't?
Did not want it.
So then Hashem forced them to take it.
Oh, you mean why at the end did they say they took it?
No, I know.
They didn't.
No coercion in spirituality.
They did?
But they were
coercion,
conversed to take it.
spirituality.
What?
They were coerced to take it, but we say no coercion in spirituality.
Right,
They did want it, but not for the reason for the Torah, for its rewards, not for the thing itself.
But then when they wanted it, whether it wasn't the
Oh, that's a
they
big.
wanted
Oh, we know that's a big difference. You know, I mean, we have people over here.
So why do they call the Torah day out?
That's what it means. They were smart. Oh, they were smart, but they were too smart.
Isn't that the reason they got it? Isn't that they say they don't want it? When they're unknowing the restriction?
What?
When they say they don't want it, when they're unknowing the restriction, that's why they got it?
I wish it was so.
No.
No.
Yeah, but it's not.
That's why I told him he was going to bury them, because they were so heavy with restriction. From that we learned just the opposite. That Hashem was telling him, if you don't take the Torah, don't you understand? I've just changed you, that you should have the biggest desire to receive of all of mankind. If you don't learn from the Torah, what's the Torah? A method of restriction, nothing more. If you don't take the Torah, then you have no hope. You got to burn out all the time. You have to burn out all the time. But that would come later. The art of restriction would come after they got the whole Torah, when he came down with all the mitzvot 40 days later. Why did he come down 40 days later? We went through all this. We want to go to sleep also.
Well, what was it that they scanned if there was no Torah?
What?
The Rav said, like the Ari tells us things to scan. What were they scanning if there was no Torah yet? What did they?
Screen.
Of the Torah before they got the Torah? Or
The Zohar existed
Right.
before.
2,000 years before the creation of the world, there was something there.
right.
Nice
They
question.
saw like in a metaphysical
Nice.
way.
How can you say that, again, like Yerushalayim and the Holy Temple,
Yes.
given the Torah on Vav of Sivan, it was before. It's like Vav of Sivan was already like this?
Sure, that's what we want to say. That's what we said right away. Not that Shavuot, Hashem made a new mitzvah called Shavuot. before.
Or the years before.
That's why the Ari talks about how the energies come in, because each debris is another sphira. That day of energy, that day existed before, except they didn't know a timetable. We didn't have a timetable. The Zohar gives us a timetable. Zohar gives us a timetable. Zohar gives us an anabakoach, even if Sefer Yetzirah, anabakoach. Timetable. Don't you know? When it comes to Sivan, you're in the month of Gemini. They're doing that puzzle. This, that. Because it was there before. Except they didn't have the information. What they got on Har Sinai was information. That's all.
What was Moshe's part? If we say that it was Job that
Read the Kabbalah connection.
the drawing, I mean, didn't Moshe also have such a great?
I explained that.
Why he called the Bible?
What?
When they got to the point that Bilat Amar Laneta, they lost it when they did the calf, the golden calf, right?
Yes.
But the Levites didn't participate. Why didn't they didn't they live forever? I mean, they were not part of whatever was happening. Why couldn't they live forever?
So for some reason Kohen Gadol is Mukushar with someone that by mistake killed someone.
Beautiful. Tell about the Ari Miklat. Beautiful. That's why in Muncie they think he's the biggest Talmid Chacham over there. He tells them things they never heard in their life. You don't know what I mean by Muncie. It's an ultra-Orthodox sect. Why can't we just talk like that also? A sect. Sect, how do you say a sect? Cat. Okay. You'll speak to, that'll take time, but you speak to Chagai, beautiful Chagai. That's where we get the idea, this week's Pasha. Without mentioning it, the guy's on a boat, he's on a cruise. Now he bought this room, right? For 7 days. He bought the room for 7 days. He starts drilling a hole in the boat. Guy goes, "Oh, what's the matter with you?" He says, "What's the matter? What do you mean, what's the matter with me? This room belongs to me. I can do whatever I want." But we know that's not true. He'll bring down everybody with him. That's what you're saying. This week's Zohar, by the way. This week's Zohar. Yeah.